Hi guys, welcome to the 4.2 Vainglory dev, not stream. We've got a video this time round. We're talking to Christian and Johan, and we're going to be discussing a little bit about 4.2 and then 4.3 on beyond as well. Christian might have some teasers for us. I don't think he can promise anything, but he might have something to give towards the end of this video. So I'm going to start off with Johan, and Johan, you haven't been. I'm hoping I'm saying that right. By the way, I you can correct me as well if I'm not. If we start off with 4.2, what did we do in 4.2? What was your main design philosophies when we had that update?
I think 4.2 is actually in line with the design philosophies when we took the big steps pre 4.0, and we landed in 4.0 with a pretty good meta, and we didn't make as many changes in 4.0 and 4.1, and actually, a lot of players, the sentiment was that the game was actually getting stale, it was getting boring. So we took a little bit bigger of a step in 4.2, but still in line with our philosophies that of the steps that we took pre 4.0, and that's kind of the broad overview of it.
Yeah, in the end, 4.0 was all about both cross-platform play and beginning to really refine the gameplay as it gets to choices. And I think in 4.2 in particular, I think we've taken significant steps forward there.
Yeah, and so you guys talk about the design philosophy. I think for the player base, it's probably good to just have that design philosophy put into words. So, what is it exactly that you guys have been striving for in terms of both balance, but also the general direction of the Vainglory meta over, like you said, pre 4.0?
Yeah, so the probably the primary design philosophy that we kind of look forward to is meaningful decisions. Pretty much as Vainglory has been conceived, it's been kind of that philosophy where you should be able to build the way you want, and that should you should be able to express your kind of play style, whether that means building certain items or choosing certain build paths. And that's kind of some paths such as weapon adagio was proving to be a little bit too strong. So in that case, you weren't really making a choice. You were trying kind of when adagio gets picked, you're like, oh, that's just weapon adagio. So kind of tuning that back, making it still viable, just not as strong as it was before. And in addition to this, we have to, as designers, we also have to think about thematic cohesion, where for a spellcaster, it often doesn't make sense that they're just shooting you with auto attacks. And so we would prefer a lot of spellcasters be primarily crystal powered, or for Adagio's case, he is both a captain and Chris, like a kind of a mage kind of feel. So weapon being the primary path for him was just strictly out of line.
It was ridiculous. To be honest,
Yeah.
as a long-term Adagio main, the idea of weapon Adagio to this day feels like blasphemy to me. So I'm glad we are finally moving a little bit away from it.
Yeah, it'll still be good. It just will not be the build to go anymore. So, yeah, that's the two kind of design philosophies we've been following.
Yeah, I mean, I think when I started Vainglory, like circa end of 2016, no, end of 2015, start of 2016, I was kind of impressed with that you could pick any hero that you wanted and build it the kind of way that you wanted without either one feeling like they had a massive strength over the other. So I think that's kind of good that you're kind of heading back to those roots in terms of giving the flexibility to heroes, which is nice because, compared to, let's say, League of Legends, which I used to play, where there were just strict build paths for strict champions and you couldn't really do one or the other. That's why I always liked Vainglory. You always had the opportunity to build either crystal or weapon. It never really felt like you were super constricted, although some heroes are definitely built for certain paths. You never felt like you were super constricted, which is what I liked.
Yeah, actually, yeah. For me, the thing that I've loved the most about the 4.0's meta updates in general is that I do feel like we've started to deliver on that broad sort of the vision and the desire for choice throughout, not just through the item builds, but also through rotational strategies and the choices that you make as to where you should be on the map.
Yeah. So obviously you guys are still sort of going on with that in terms of 4.2 and 4.3, but we had a little bit of a change up with ARAL and Rumble. And a lot of the community outcry was, I miss ARAL. Where's ARAL? Can we have ARAL permanently? Which was kind of what I was reading over the last few months. What was it that kind of swayed your decision? Was it just the constant asking from the community? Was there any database driven stuff in there as well, Christian?
Yeah, I mean, this is, to be honest, these are really tough calls sometimes, because the thing that the community wants isn't always, or what the community says that the community wants isn't always what the community really wants. And so we try to look at both what the sentiment is and what people say they want, but also what people actually play. And the difficult thing about game modes sometimes can be that they are different. Like game modes, the pattern of play of game modes evolves in different ways. There are game modes that are sort of firecrackers, if you like, that explode and people play them a lot for a limited amount of time, and then it kind of fizzles. And then the other game was to start off not so strong, but then begin to build popularity over time. So, like one example, I know people have sometimes asked about Onslaught. Whereas Onslaught, that mode that we had, if you recall, just over a year ago, that was like the mother of all firecrackers. Like that, it was a thing that everybody played for so much for like 2 weeks, and then literally nobody played it anymore. So what we've seen, I think, with between Rumble and ARAL is that Rumble is more firecrackery than, if you like, than ARAL is, and that's really the main reason why I brought it back. Now, obviously, that not that I want to encourage further Reddit outcries really about anything, but they are hard to miss also. So it's a mix of the feedback we get, but also the metrics that we observe. And part of the logic and the reason why we are doing rotating game modes in the first place is, of course, to be able to have some very long-lasting game modes that we hope people will play for years and years, combined with game modes which are much more sort of transient, if you like, that are fun for a little while, and then you can kind of not play them for a while.
Yeah, I think obviously a lot of people enjoyed ARAL as a game mode, and we'll see. I guess you've always been very data driven, Christian. I remember having lots of conversations with you about Vainglory, where it's all kind of like data driven decisions, and we'll see. I'd love to follow up with you in a few months and see how things shape up in terms of ARAL play compared to.
Yeah, and it is interesting, like, because it is not just, of course, we look at Vainglory and our own game modes, but also play culture moves on beyond our title and beyond like how people play in any game, and games come, games go. There are game modes that come and game modes that go equally. So we don't ever believe that we have the solution. What we try to do is evolve the game in the directions that we feel like ourselves as players feel good, and also feel good to in terms of the metrics, but also the community sentiment.
Yeah, and I think something that a lot of people will hopefully get from seeing these conversations with you is that game dev isn't easy. It is a tough decision. Sometimes you make a decision and you don't exactly know how it'll play out, and the only response you're going to get is a Reddit thread telling you either how bad or good that decision was, right? So it's
and hey, and let's face it, those threads are sometimes constructive. There is somewhere that bit of constructive feedback, which is useful. But we do appreciate all the feedback always. I know that sometimes we see waves of overwhelming positivity about certain things, and sometimes the other kind of waves that we can see out there. But we do love you all, and we do want to keep on evolving the game in a direction. And we have some exciting things coming up.
And I know the community will appreciate having this ability to talk to you directly as well. I'm not like I'm saying I'm a speaker for the community or anything, but it's nice I'm going to get to face-to-face chat with you guys, especially about things like the meta. And speaking of which, as we sort of just close our little thoughts on 4.2 and maybe sort of look towards the future here, how have you, I mean, it's for Johan specifically, how have you felt 4.2's played out so far? Has it played out how you've expected it to play out in terms of the way that you balanced it? And that's another interesting question that I also want to throw on the end of this. I would love to get your opinion about, do you have a set idea of what's going to happen to the meta when you make those decisions? And then does it actually play out the way that you expect beyond that?
Yeah, so actually, when we're making design decisions, we always kind of have this kind of idea of what we want the meta to play out like. Whether or not the meta plays out like that is, that's in the air for the players to decide. But for 4.2, it's actually kind of playing out similarly to what we kind of expected. Actually, we currently are experiencing kind of like a very low win rate spread, probably one of the most like statistically balanced patches that we've had in maybe the past year. There's less than a 10% win spread between the highest and lowest hero. So we've had times where a hero has like 60% win rate. Here, heroes have like 59, 58%. But
we leave the community to guess when that might have been.
And times even when there's like Reza, where he came out with like a 20-something% win rate. So
Sorry.
there are times where we mess up, but even with how the community has how like a lot of the changes were random or kind of not the right changes. We apologize for not kind of communicating the reasoning for our changes, but we would appreciate it if you guys put some trust into us and kind of just play out the game. Don't kind of take anything out of proportion. We're always watching things, so if anything kind of goes out of line, we'll definitely hotfix it as we have in the past. And right now with the lowest win rate is like 45 and the highest win rate is like 55, and I think that's kind of like a healthy range for where heroes should be.
And it is, and obviously, it is worth always remembering that kind of an average win rate doesn't really tell you very much, because it might tell you that somebody is really popular right now in the lower elo ranges, for example, because he or she is so cool to play, or there was some interesting change to their kit or their balance, and hence a lot of people are playing that hero without necessarily knowing how to play that hero or which role to play that hero in. So like these things, they do take some time to stabilize, and we always think a lot about all of the different potential sources for bias in the data that we look at. So
yeah.
But overall, the closer to 50% we see the win rates, the happier we ultimately are.
Yeah, I mean, actually, so when we make kind of design decisions, we actually look at more than just win rate, and it might seem kind of weird sometimes where it's like, hey, someone is above 50% win rate or 50% win rate, why are you buffing them? Or if someone's below 50% win rate, why are you nerfing them? There are other constraints where we kind of take our data, we break it down into tiers, we break it down into builds, we break it down into how many times a champion is banned or a hero is banned, and there's a lot of kind of these intricacies of kind of hero and item balance in which like we see how many like times people buy a certain item. We can kind of tell how popular like certain builds are and how popular certain paths are, and we're kind of taking all of that into account, while kind of like it's hard to please everyone. That's kind of like the learning lesson here, is that while we do balance for high tier play, we like 90% of our audience is not high tier, so we kind of have to spend some effort balancing the game for them as well.
And it is also it's worth pointing out that a lot of the time, when we look at the tier lists that people construct out there, they are just plain wrong in terms of win percentage, and a lot of it comes from the fact that, say, you can have a massively unpopular out of meta hero that some players are very good at, so it has a very low pick rate but a very, very high win rate, because that hero, for whatever reason, somebody's figured out how to play it incredibly well in a position. So it is interesting how there's actually often only partial overlap between the data that we see and the way that the community perceives a specific update in terms of who's strong and who's not strong. And it's a fun sort of cat and mouse game almost to try to work out how do we evolve the balancing in such a way that on the one hand it makes sense when it comes to the data, but on the other hand it also makes sense to the community in terms of doing it. And actually, you asked sort of how we think about it and what we expect from the outcomes. I think one of the things that we've learned over time and is generally to make reasonably small changes unless we have a lot of conviction, unless we literally want to shake the snow globe in an area, because it's hard to predict how a small change, how large an impact a small change might have. So usually when we've gotten the past few updates, we've made much smaller changes than typical to attempt to stabilize the broader 4.0 or the the major update 4's gameplay. But it's been fun to see all the new things in 4.2 and how those have evolved play.
Yeah, and I think that's the takeaway for anyone watching here, that if you're balancing a game, often the most critical people will be the people who also play at the highest tiers, and therefore they forget that like you said, 90% of your audience isn't your tier and don't play those heroes at the same kind of level or capacity that you can, and therefore sometimes can't get the OP level of output that you can get from certain heroes. And it's interesting for me when I do my tier lists. I usually do it with a general idea of tier 9 and above in mind, right? In terms of playing a hero in a certain way. But I imagine people trying to utilize my tier lists, if I gave a tier 4 or tier 5 player a Yates or a Churmwalker in, and even though they're high priority and high tier, they probably wouldn't have the same impact because they require a higher level of skill to play. So it's really interesting to hear you guys talk about that. But we should move on just briefly because I don't want to take this into the massive lengths of my usual videos. Let's talk a little bit about...
We love your long videos. We love your long videos, but yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about 4.3, and I'll start with you, Christian, because obviously PC launch went out, cross-platform, ideology post 4.0, and then also China, which has been a massive market for you guys trying to expand in through the Android launch and so on and so forth. How have all of those individual areas gone, Christian, and how are you guys feeling about them at the lair?
Yeah, good. So, 4 was always a jump into the unknown with cross-platform, and we are really excited about enabling people to be able to play together with anyone, anywhere, really, regardless of whichever device they're on. And that's been something that we've been really excited about for some time. So the Steam Early Access in particular has been enormously useful for us as a place to learn more about this. We've been releasing updates for PC pretty fast and furious, especially in the first couple of weeks of being in early access. We've been working on things behind the scenes. Even 4.2 had a bunch of meaningful, pretty big bug fixes. There are still things that we are unhappy about in terms of certain performance issues, particular loading times and things on PC that we're still working on and addressing. But overall, we've learned a lot. We've been really excited about our steady stream of new PC players, despite the fact that we're still in early access. And we appreciate all the positive reviews and all of that, and also the constructive feedback. We had a lot of constructive feedback early on making the game more feel better on PC. But you are right, a lot of our focus actually has been going, as we think about 4.3 and beyond, is getting PC to a state where we could no longer call it early access, but we would actually think of it as a fully launched product. And in a similar way, of course, in the West, PC version is not even live in China yet, which is as you said, a very significant market for us. So a lot of our work has been to continue to polish the gameplay experience itself, as Johan pointed out, when it comes to just the choices and the meta and the overall balancing of the game and making it feel as good as possible, but then also making sure that it plays as well on the broadest range of devices now, especially on PC. And hopefully you'll see some interesting things here from us over the next couple of months, not just in China, but also in the rest of the world, in terms of just getting the game in front of more people.
And speaking of that, I think as we're heading towards the close, what have we got coming up? And I'll ask it in two parts. Anything in terms of the broader spectrum, Christian, and anything maybe you can share about upcoming content or heroes. I know the community might like to hear a little bit more about the plans you guys have got.
Sure. Well, I'll start. So we, as always, as a company, we're always working on small things and we're working on very big things. The very big things usually take years to come out, and the smaller things take months to come out. And I think when it comes to the next couple of months in particular, I think you can expect certainly more gameplay related things, which I guess you can perhaps talk about or not talk about. I don't know if the thought police will come after you or not. But we're certainly always looking at new ways to both get Vainglory in front of as many people as possible, as well as innovating in how people play in the broadest possible way. So lots of projects underway in this regard. Some of which you probably won't hear us talk about for a very long time. But we are very, very excited broadly about both how the popularity of cross-platform play and the popularity of the style of play that we build is propagating through the world, and lots of fun things to come.
And you had anything about any upcoming heroes? Just I don't want too much. I don't want to give away anything too much, but let's just say, what kind of class of hero is coming out next? Is it going to be like a support, a tank, a bruiser, a carry?
How would I classify it? I guess they would fall under a carry. It's not gonna be your traditional carry, but it's gonna be pretty impactful.
This will be something that I will not main. So, but then again, I am a captain main. I am, I play very specific types of heroes. If you know what kind of heroes I play, this is not a hero that I will likely main. I will enjoy killing this hero, however. So,
are you
really,
saying is this too mechanical for you, Christian? Is that what you're saying? Is it?
Whoa.
No, it's the thing is, OP heroes like this are not really my style because I want to win by skill, not by the hero being OP.
Wait. Let's not call
So
it.
wait,
OP.
let's just hit the soundbite. Christian says that SCMC releases OP heroes. Okay.
Occasionally with a 20% win rate, but yeah.
Yeah. So okay, so we've got a sort of unconventional carry coming out next then, which will be that's very interesting. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I don't know anything about this hero, by the way, guys, so this is going to be an interesting one for me as well. And just finally, anything on the, because this is something that me and you have talked about a lot, Christian, over the years. It's the out of game experience in Vainglory. What people can do when they're not playing on Sovereign's Rise or the Halcyon Fold. What have you guys got planned for progression and rewards? I know you recently sort of put the level cap up, or I think put the level cap up, or tease putting the level cap up. What is the expectation for out of game coming for Vainglory?
Yeah, there's a fair few things that we're working on there. We've always felt that it's been a bit of an Achilles heel of the experience overall. At the end of the day, as a team, we're a team that is incredibly focused on gameplay, beautiful gameplay, technical art, and so on. And so Vainglory, those of you who've been with us from a very, very early days, you always literally the app was pretty much one giant play button and then a beautiful Halcyon Fold when we initially put the product out. And we've always been much more gameplay focused than anything else, really, as a studio. Sometimes to our detriment. And I think over the past year or two, we've really focused on beginning to build the tools internally to actually improve our out of game experience in a meaningful way. And some of those things you've seen come up in recent updates where we've perhaps made overall progression a little bit more meaningful across the board. But there are some, I believe, some specifics that, of course, some things came out in 4.2, but some specifics which will be coming out in the next couple of updates. And thematically, I don't know what we can talk about at this moment in time.
I don't think anything is in stone, so let's not make any promises. But
broadly, I think feeling that every game that you play is more rewarding out of game in general, feeling that you make progress regardless of what you do and you never feel stuck.
Yeah, we're definitely working on it.
Okay.
That was the clearest answer you've ever gotten from any game as to what they're doing.
Johan, we're working on it. Got it. All right. Okay.
It is definitely on our mind.
Oh, no.
Okay, right. Well, I think I should probably draw this to a close. It's almost gone way over the time limit that I was given, and classic Excoundrel always puts his videos out at about 6 hours long. So, just finally, thank you guys. Everyone knows that Christian's favorite hero is Adagio, but Johan, you're quite new to your face on camera. Well, what is your favorite hero in Vainglory?
I guess it's hard for me to make favorites. If you ask me, I really don't pick favorites, but if I had to pick one, it would probably be Magnus. No bias that I'm the designer who made him, but
okay.
But he's like the princely type, which in Smash Brothers I enjoy playing Marth. So I kind of enjoy these type of characters, and he's kind of like that kind of character in Vainglory.
I had a nightmare about him the other day because it's like he's so vicious when like a good Magnus player, like it's just depressing. Like that whole the degree to which he can be so oppressive is great when in good hands, and it's really funny when in poor hands. So
yeah, he's definitely a high skill cap hero. We might just if he keeps on getting banned, he'll keep on getting nerfed. It's kind of how it works.
Yeah,
he's already below 50% win rate, but.
You want heroes to get played though at the end of the day, right? You kind of design them to be played, right? My favorite hero, by the way, guys, if you didn't know, is Varia, because it's the only hero I've ever been good with. So
that's a good reason.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
No. You carry on, Christian. I said right.
Yes, no,
So
I
don't worry.
know. I did also want to say thanks to the community for the continued support throughout. We do, read all the threads. We do check out all the comments. We do appreciate all the tweets and all the constructive feedback. We sometimes engage. We sometimes do not engage in those conversations, but we do read them. So keep the feedback coming, and we're always open to new ideas and new cool things. But we should have some fun things coming your guys' way in the next couple of months. So hopefully you guys will enjoy 4.3 and beyond.
Well, guys, thank you so much. This has gone 10 minutes over the allotted time that I was given, but regardless, I think we had a good conversation, and we sort of got a bit of insight into 4.2 and beyond, so that's really nice. And obviously, it's great to see your guys' lovely faces. I'm sure everyone will appreciate this when they get the chance to watch it through. So, from myself, Christian and Johan, thank you so much. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.